Good evening, everyone. We're going to get started in about 2 minutes. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. We're going to get started. So you're here for the listening session as it relates to the possible temporary closure of Churchill Avenue rail crossing. And I'd like to start with a moment of silence to recognize our community members who have lost their lives by the way of suicide. Please feel free to close your eyes as we pause in remembrance of our community members. Thank you. My name is Alex Andrade. I work with the City of Palo Alto as the assistant to the city manager, as well as the economic development manager. Today, I'm here as under the role of assistant to the city manager. While I'm fairly new to the city, I've been with the city for about 3 months. I'm not new to Palo Alto. I lived here for a few years. My son attended JLS Middle School, and we lived here for a total of 4 years, and very fond memories. So I will be facilitating today's listening session. And so we're here to obtain your thoughts on the possibility of a temporary rail closure at Churchill Avenue and Alma Street, located right down the street. But before I turn it over to City Council member and chair of our Rail Safety Ad Hoc Committee, Julie Lithcott-Hames, as well as our city manager, Ed Shikata, I'd like to acknowledge folks that are in the room. There are several city council members that are currently in the room, as well as online. There's also several city staff members that are here in person from the city manager's office, as well as the Office of Transportation. But we also have many executives and staff members that are online. And this includes our police and fire chiefs, representatives from the city manager's office, the Office of Transportation, the city attorney's office, Public Works, Planning and Development Services, Community Services, and the Office of Emergency Services. In addition, there are representatives here, of course, from the Palo Alto Unified School District. Our acting superintendent, Trent Bahardarsh Singh, is here, as well as the chair for the school board, Chair Shanek, located here. So before we move on, I just wanted to give you a sense of what the agenda looks like for us here tonight. So I will be sharing, well, before that, our chair, Lithcott-Hames, will be providing you the purpose of tonight's conversation as well as setting the context. And then we will be joined by Chair Sonic that will share information from the school district. And then our city manager will share information as to what the city has been doing in this regard. And so then it'll come back to me, and then I will share community listening guidelines. We just want to make sure that we have a very respectful environment here, and everybody has an opportunity to speak. So that's really important. Anybody who wants to speak will have an opportunity to speak. Since we're talking about that, by a show of hands, how many people expect to speak tonight? Thank you. 2 minutes? I was sticking to. I guess we could, okay. There will be a timer, and we will come back to you as to what that time allotted will be per person. 15 seconds. So I think with that, I'm going to hand it over to our Rail Safety Committee Chair. Of course.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Andrade, and thank you for all your work to pull this together. All of this has been happening on a tighter time frame than usual, and I'm just, on behalf of the council and your colleagues in the city, just grateful for the leadership role you have played and that of colleagues, certainly countless beyond you. I am Julie Lithcott-Hames. My pronouns are she, they. I am honored to serve the city as a council member and to be part of this critical work to advance rail safety by serving on the council's ad hoc committee on rail safety, along with Vice Mayor Stone and Councilmember Burt, where we work toward achieving greater understanding and devising solutions with city staff, the school district, Caltrain, nonprofits, the JED Foundation, experts at Stanford, clinicians, other providers, and of course you, the members of our community. We are grateful to our colleagues and friends at the school district for providing this space for tonight's conversation. To expand access to this conversation beyond the constraints of one room, this is a hybrid convening that is being streamed live on our YouTube channel, the city's YouTube channel, and of course recorded to be watched later. Our Rail Safety Ad Hoc Committee was thoughtfully appointed by Mayor Vicky Vinker, who is here tonight. Mayor? Also here are Council Members Burt. Please stand as I recognize you. Council Members Burt, Liu, and Reckdahl. And I know Vice Mayor Stone and Councilmember Lowing are listening remotely. You'll have an opportunity to hear from our counterparts in the school district, represented by School Board President Shaunuk Darup, after I am through. I also want to say that while my role on Council's Rail Safety Committee gives me the microphone tonight, I am first and foremost a Palo Alto parent, specifically the mother of 2 gun graduates. It was our dream to offer our children an education here in the magnificent Palo Alto Unified School District, and we made sacrifices as a family to make that happen. Many of you can relate. I want to acknowledge that whatever our age, stage, role in life, most, if not all of us, I expect, are experiencing some degree of grief, sadness, bewilderment, frustration, anguish, even anger over youth suicide in our town. I also want to acknowledge that most recently, the youth who have ended their lives by suicide have been members of the trans community, and it is important that we speak that, because this is a community that needs to be seen and supported and profoundly loved as they are. I can't know how you personally have been touched by the issue of suicide, but I know I have been touched by it, and without presuming to know your unique situation or experience, I offer each and every one of you the deepest and most heartfelt compassion. We are grieving as individuals, families, friend groups, colleagues, and as a community. And we are here tonight as part of the effort to move forward toward greater health, safety, and wellness together. The purpose of this listening session is to have the community share thoughts with the city as we evaluate the possibility of a temporary closure of the Churchill Avenue rail crossing. Here is why we're having this conversation now. In light of the most recent youth suicides and history of clusters in Palo Alto, the community is calling for change to reduce risks, increase safety, and support our youth. As a response, several safety priorities have been implemented, including contracting with a company to provide track monitoring staff 24/7. And with Palo Alto Unified School District sharing in the cost of that, we were able to move very expeditiously toward that, and you've seen they're there now. The city is quite grateful to the school district for partnering with us on that. In addition, Caltrain is in the process of installing enhanced safety measures at Palo Alto's 4 train crossings. Some are already in place, some are still to come. We are also grateful to Caltrain for their consistent and enhanced partnerships around safety. The city has heard requests for an emergency closure of the Churchill Avenue rail crossing. I want to acknowledge Pali student Julia Curtis, who circulated a petition regarding emergency closure of Churchill and garnered over 3,700 signatures. And I believe Julia is here tonight. Would you please stand? I know there are many opinions that will be shared tonight, regardless where you are on the issue. It's wonderful to see our youth stepping up, taking action when something significantly concerns them. Your leadership is appreciated, Julia. Our city staff have started an expedited evaluation of a temporary closure, and potential implications for city council consideration and potential action are anticipated to take place at our April 13th council meeting. This will end up being a 60-day period from when we first began addressing the issue to when council is going to be making a decision. This temporary closure would be an emergency public safety measure to limit access to lethal means. You might expect that your city can just close a road if we want to, but we can't. We do not have that authority, believe it or not. You will hear from City Manager Ed Shikata in a few minutes about what this process entails. A consistent finding in suicide prevention research is that reducing access to highly lethal means saves lives. This principle, often referred to as means restriction, has been demonstrated repeatedly in epidemiologic and public health studies. When access to a lethal method or location is restricted, whether through examples like the Golden Gate Bridge safety net barrier, firearms safe storage policies, or rail corridor protections, suicide deaths decline, often substantially. Importantly, research shows that individuals prevented from accessing a particular method often do not substitute another lethal method. Many survive the acute crisis and go on to recover, as long as they can be connected to prompt mental health treatment. It is also important to emphasize that means restriction measures complement rather than replace mental health care. Suicide prevention requires a layered strategy that includes school-based prevention and peer programs, accessible mental health services, such as through alcove or outpatient clinic programs, responsible media practices, and means restriction measures in high-risk locations, such as the anti-intrusion panels, rail sentry movement detection, and fencing, all of which either are in place or soon will be at our 4 rail crossings, as well as potentially street closure at Churchill. However, please know that closing a major artery in the city comes with a legitimate and potentially concerning set of different consequences, and it is critical to anticipate and evaluate them. A key part of our expedited evaluation is this, community engagement, which brings us to tonight. Your input here live, as well as the online comments received, will be shared with the City Council to help inform our decision-making process. We encourage you to visit the city's website for information on related safety measures. Everyone who wants to speak will get an opportunity, as Mr. Andrade has already indicated. There will be a timed public comment period, and we will determine the time each speaker will get for public comment when we see how many are here when the listening session actually begins. Before we get to that, it's time for me to turn the mic over to my friend and colleague, Palo Alto Unified School District Board Chair Shaunak Darup. This partnership, yes, clap for Board Chair Darup. This partnership between the city and the school district is a critical component of our path forward. And on behalf of the council, I want to express my deep gratitude to Chair Darup and to his colleagues, both on the school board and the district staff, for your partnership today and always. Here's Board Chair Darup.
It's really nice to see this turnout. You know, it's a couple months. In a couple months, it'll have been 18 years since I graduated from Gunn, 2008. That was a year that we had the first student die by suicide at the East Meadow Crossing, and then the second the third, including my dear water polo teammate. And my parents, by the way, lived across Alma. The back fence was on the tracks. And I live a couple houses down now. I live right at the corner of the crossing. And I remember what it was like at the time, very deeply. I remember what it was like a few years later when my sister was at Gunn, and we had the second cluster of students die by suicide, including her friends. And we collectively as a community in 2008, 2009, 2010, 2014, 15, we were shaken. We felt totally out of control, lost. Were we angry? No, we were pissed at the people in charge. Why didn't you do more? Why couldn't you do more? Julie, I bet you feel like that. I bet all the students feel like that. Now I am the person in charge. I'm the president of the school board. Why can't I do more? Why can't we do more? That's a question we ask ourselves every day. It's a question I've been asking myself since I ran the first time in 2018, saying mental health is really important and let's protect our kids. And yet, there are students that we haven't. So, all that to say, people are trying to do the good work, but as folks in charge of our respective government bodies, school board, school district, the city, we have levers that we can pull, right, or push. And those levers are limited. As a school district, we have tried hard to focus on mental health, to focus on wellness, to focus on bullying, to focus on homework policies, to focus on sleep. What are all the levers we can touch as a school district, and how can we do it? There's always more that we're finding out, and there's always more that we're trying to do, but it's never enough. At a certain point, you need to go beyond what we as a body can do. The city has been doing great things as well, and I really want to emphasize how grateful I am to our partners in the city. I've spoken with every council member here, Councilmember Burt, and Rekdal, Lou, of course, Lithcott Hames. I know folks who are watching too. I particularly want to call out Councilmember Stone, who I know has taken a particular passion in supporting our student mental health and our youth in the city. Everybody wants to do something. I know it. By the way, I have had loud disagreements with my partners on the city council. You can bet I have. But it's because we want the same thing. We just don't agree on how to get there. And in fact, that area of disagreement is so small. We all want to go in the same direction. And so having this listening session is an amazing step. The school board and the district, again, the closure of Churchill Crossing, totally out of our purview, right? We have no control as a school district over that, except to say we agree that it is a step that we think should be taken if it's feasible, because the physical infrastructure, limiting means and access, is a lever we just can't push as a school district. All the things that we've tried to do, this is beyond our ability. And the board is unanimous in its support for the pursuit of this idea. And the district is as well. Now, whether or not it's possible, we completely understand the logistical challenges and the feasibility challenges. But we want to stand up here with you all, and especially our students who have been advocating for this, to say, we're with you. And we understand that it's something that needs to happen if it can happen. And then I just want to say personally, I understand. I don't understand what each of you is feeling or going through, but I understand what it feels like to be pissed off at your government for not being able to save kids. I'm going to do everything I can to advocate for every means that we have to protect our students. And I know that our council members here and our mayor and our city manager, Mr. Shikata, I know they care so deeply about our youth. And so I'm really gratified to be here with each of you and listen to what all you have to say and provide input on and see what can we do to take the next step to protect our kids. Thank you.
Back on? Okay, there we go. Press the button by mistake here. So thank you so much. It's really privileged to follow our speakers who have reflected so deeply on what brought us here today. My role is really to give you a briefing on where we are and our steps forward. First off, let me just reinforce the urgency with which we have taken on our most recent actions. As was noted, soon following the most recent tragedy, the school district and the city worked quickly to establish our ability to get staffed track monitors at all of our crossings here in Palo Alto. In addition, and based on the interest and advocacy on closure or pursuing the idea of closure of the Churchill crossing, we are here now. We have initiated this evaluation as an urgent and essentially an emergency action, and given ourselves, as Councilmember Lithcott-Haynes pointed out, essentially a 60-day window to put together information that could lead to an informed discussion by the City Council and perhaps action as of mid-April. You know what this means? This will not be the typical Palo Alto process or the stereotypical Palo Alto process of analysis paralysis. We've set this time frame. There is information that has been compiled over years that will allow us to have an informed discussion and then proceed. So I'd like to share at this point what we know and also what we don't know. First off, let me describe what we mean by a temporary closure. In consultation with Caltrain, we've had initial discussion of whether a closure could be or would need to be complete all hours of the day or potentially could be open during periods before school and after school during the day and closed at other times. Based on the complexity of that type of change and the effectiveness being the goal of limiting means, we've concluded that crossing would need to be closed at all times. So again, not during part of the day. Next, let me refer to duration of temporary. That's an open question. One reference point that we've received from experts on suicide prevention, they've pointed out that the period of 12 months following a suicide is a critical period. From that perspective, a temporary closure should remain in place for at least 12 months. Again, that's a perspective. Another perspective would be to treat a temporary closure as a trial during which it may be limited to a few months so that the effects on access and other impacts on the surrounding area could be evaluated. So essentially at this point, it's an open question. We've not made a conclusion as to which, whether it's a few months, a year or more, would be the period during which we would define a temporary closure. Our immediate ongoing evaluation also includes expedited assessment of potential impacts of a closure. That would include fire and police emergency response, rerouting and the safety of pedestrians and cyclists, particularly to and from Palo Alto High School, vehicular traffic circulation, access to neighborhoods, and likely increased traffic congestion on alternative crossings, especially Embarcadero Road and Oregon Expressway, as well as California Avenue Tunnel undercrossing for cyclists. So that's one area of concern. Secondly, who needs to approve a temporary closure? As Chair Dar pointed out, it's not the school board. If the City Council were to choose to pursue a closure, we know that approval would be required by the California Public Utilities Commission, CPUC. Our current work is meant to provide the City Council with the information from our evaluation and community input that would provide staff direction on whether to seek CPUC approval. The city is considering the temporary closure as an emergency action in the interest of public safety, for which we've received initial feedback from CPUC staff could be approved on an expedited timeframe. We've also received an initial indication that train horns could be silenced during a closure. Now that's initial feedback, and I think it would be fair to say we've also received mixed messages from CPUC, so that's work that's ongoing with our staff, with CPUC staff, to really be clear on the path forward, again, understanding our emergency urgent circumstances. Next, If approved by the City Council, staff anticipates that it would take some time to actually implement a closure, likely at least 2 or 3 months, in order to put in place traffic controls, the other changes that would affect the train operations. Now, this is preliminary, again, would be revised as more information becomes available on both the approval process as well as the work that would be required once we receive direction. Then finally, the city is working, as has been noted previously, on long-term safety improvements in collaboration with CPUC, or with PAUSD. Obviously, we have our human monitors now 24/7. We also know, obviously, that PAUSD has been doing much upstream of the, again, crossings and needing to be focused on crossing safety itself. Then finally, Caltrain, who we actually have Caltrain staff present here as well this evening, monitoring our discussions, is actively working on adding enhancements to their rail sentry system, LiDAR and camera video detection system, as well as lighting, crossing enhancements, other intrusion barriers that you have seen being installed at our crossings. We're also pursuing actively quiet zones as an immediate action. Again, there is a approval process required there to put in place as quickly as possible on all of our crossings. So that effectively gives you a briefing on where we are today. This is work in progress. As noted, we've got roughly a month before we plan to bring our information to the City Council for further discussion. We have our subject matter experts looking at fire, police, transportation, all of which will be pulled together in our report to the City Council, including any additional feedback you give us this evening. With that, let me turn it back to Mr. Andrade.
Thank you. So now we're going to get into the real reason you're here, which is to share your thoughts and input. So we're moving into the listening session. You've heard from city officials as well as our school board chair, Darup. So the way the agenda looks next is we'll have an open floor listening session. We'll start with 45 minutes. We'll take a break after that. We'll come back and decide or determine how many people still want to speak. And we will be here until everybody who wants to speak has an opportunity. So I do want to share that we just want to make sure that we have some guidelines here because we want to ensure that we have an inclusive and respectful environment. And so City of Palo Alto leaders will be facilitating the meeting as you've seen. So please make sure to have be respectful of folks because we're going to have roaming microphones. So we will come to you for those that want to speak. So we would ask that you please keep your comments concise to ensure everyone can speak. And we'll remind you that this is not a decision-making meeting, but it's a listening session. So we're here to take your input, and that information will go into a staff report that ultimately will go to our council for consideration on what is tentatively scheduled for April 13th. So I know we've had some clapping, and I think it makes sense, but please be mindful that that might cause pause or trigger for some folks. So I think I'm going to stop there. Thank you for being here. Thank you to those people that are here online. And I believe that we may have student speakers here. We want to start with them first. So if that is true, please raise your hands. Okay, we're going to grab a microphone. And Julie, I believe? Oh, yes. We want to make sure, again, everybody has an opportunity to speak. That means that each individual will have up to 2 minutes per person. And for those that want to speak via a group, then we are providing those groups 6 minutes. Is that understood? A group of 5. A group of 5 people, yes, 6 minutes. So with that, I am going to make sure that Julie gets a microphone and we will start your 2 minutes. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Julia, and I'm a junior at Pali. Since I have been alive, there have been over a dozen students who have killed themselves by train in PUSD. When this pattern continues for almost 2 decades, we have to take a step back and realize that we're doing mental health initiatives are only one side of the equation and are being thoroughly worked on by PUSD wellness staff and students, including the other side is the trains. In short, the trains are effective suicide attempts. We can't make them less dangerous, but we can limit their accessibility. According to standard medicine, inside the house are 35 to commit suicide. Think about the access of a gun in the house and a 1,000-ton train outside a school. According to the National Institute, clarifying is extremely effective means. Thank you. Sorry about that. Is that okay? It's working. Okay, my bad. Alrighty. Research shows that elimination of lethal means is one of the most effective ways to prevent suicide, according to the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention. Quote, it Okay. I'd like to quote the parents of Summer Maida, who told Palo Alto Online that the trains created an easy means for her to impulsively act at a low moment. Anyone who is having suicidal thoughts at Pali is able to take a 3-minute walk to the train crossing. With unbelievable stress levels, as well as bullying of queer and neurodivergent communities as PUSD, this isn't as common as you might think. I'm thrilled that guards have been put into place at each crossing, especially after I collected over 3,700 signatures for my petition to do so. However, we have seen in the past that after 1 to 2 year contract ends, we continue to see suicide. Unless they can be made permanent, the guards are not a long-term solution for suicide prevention in Palo Alto. I also understand that the shift will be inconvenient for many Pali students commuting to school. However, there are other routes to Pali, and we will figure out this change together. My fellow classmates are more than willing to compromise their mornings. I am also willing to organize a Churchill crossing boycott to show how Pali students can manage to commute without the crossing or posting alternate routes to social media. Above all, we should prioritize student safety over inconvenience. I don't want my kids to go to a school where suicide is normalized, and I don't want my classmates to take a graveyard to school anymore. Thank you.
Test, 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 test.
Looks like we're trying to ensure that a wireless microphone is working. If not, for those people that are ready to speak, you can use this microphone or the microphone that Megan is holding.
So we have a few options for those that are comfortable, that are fine with using a podium. That is great. We also have this option. It is working now, so I'm not sure what the issue was. As well as this table here does have an open wired mic. So all those options are available, and we can pivot and keep moving. So I think there are a few other students that were interested in speaking. Would you mind raising your hands again? Maybe they left early already? Okay. So in terms of other attendees that are interested in speaking, would you mind raising your hand? And I'll try to move around the room and try to be equitable. I'll start in the middle.
Sure, yeah. Good evening, members of the board and everyone. My name is Jun Wang. I'm here as a parent in Palo Alto and as a parent who lost a child to suicide on the train tracks at the Churchill crossing on March 4th, 2025. When a young person is in suicidal crisis, the feeling is often intense but brave. Minutes matter. If a lethal method is immediately available in that moment, the outcome can be permanent. But if there is a time and a distance, if there is even a small barrier, the crisis can pass. Think of it like this. If a house has a gas leak, we don't wait to study the problem while the gas keeps flowing. The first thing we want to do is turn off the gas. Removing the fuel doesn't solve everything, but it prevents a tragedy while we work on the deeper issues. Access to the lethal means is a fuel. Closing this crossing, even temporarily, creates a pause that is long enough for a text from a friend, a call from a parent, or for that overwhelming moment to pass. We absolutely need counseling, mental health resources, and community support in the Palo Alto School District. But reducing access to lethal means is one of the most immediate, proven ways to prevent suicide. As a parent who has already lost a child, I'm asking you to help protect the children who are still there. Please give them that pause. Thank you.
Hi. I might end up going over a little bit, just FYI. My name's Nick Maida. My 17-year-old daughter, Summer Davy Maida, died on the Caltrain tracks on February 3rd, 2026. That's 37 days ago. It's 888 hours. It's 53,280 minutes of reminders, of distraction, of grieving, of loving remembrance, of replaying the final day, and of wishing for just one more. Summer was struggling significantly between mental health issues and fitting in as an autistic and transgender girl at Pali. We had her under an intense psychiatric medical regimen, regular psychotherapy, and various other treatments. And she was making progress. She was managing through her junior year at Pali. She was super active in Pali Theater, and she was always helping her fellow students. Indeed, nearly 100 students and staff attended our celebration of life for our dear Summer at the Children's Theater on February 6th, and they spoke about the impact on her lives. Almost $1 million had been raised for the Trevor Project to reduce LGBTQ youth suicide in Summer's name. Many issues contributed to Summer's death. Unhandled bullying at Pali, the current political climate, underlying biological issues, the loss of her friend Ash. But Summer's death was catalyzed by what we're talking about today. Churchill created an easy means for her to act impulsively at a low moment. In doing so, she not only shattered our lives, but the lives of thousands of others. Countless family members of suicide victims have been triggered. Parents were shaken, thinking about losing their own children. I can't imagine what it's like working at Pali or the city of Palo Alto, any of your jobs, knowing that you might lose a child any day. Many of you probably had dark moments reflecting on all of this. Most importantly, I think every day about Summer's friends and classmates. The cost of suicide is far more than one person. I urge you to close Churchill. It's too late for my daughter, but it's not too late for yours. I'll never forget the sights and sounds of Tuesday morning, seeing Summer on Life 360 at the place of my nightmares, speeding to Churchill, sprinting down the street, seeing the crowd forming, finding her beloved e-bike and phone, but not her, watching my family members collapse on the pavement, hearing from the policeman, all amidst the cacophony of the train sounds. I can't unsee or unhear any of that. The ghost of February 3rd will haunt me for each day, hour, and minute for the rest of my life. I've accepted that. But the train bells don't need to be the sounds other parents hear when they say goodbye to their children. Bereavement meal trains don't need to be the way we eat, only way we eat together. And fundraisers don't need to be always in memoriam. Summer and Ash are gone, along with far too many others. I can't change that. I'm here because I don't want it to happen to your loved ones or to anyone else in our community. You deserve better. Thank you.
Thank you. Raise your hand on this side and I'll.
Hi, my name's Steve Rosenblum. I live in Old Palo Alto, a few blocks from here. I raised two kids that both went to Pali, and I'm so sad to hear about these children that have lost their lives. I think at a time like this, it's difficult to think about all the things we've done to prevent suicidal action and suicidal ideation, and they failed. But I also think that there are many other methods that people can use to commit suicide besides stepping in front of a train. For example, just going out in traffic on Alma, which is going by 50 miles an hour. That's also pretty effective. I think the other thing is the question of what's going to happen to the Pali students that cross the tracks now at Churchill. They're going to have to use some other pedestrian method, which really doesn't exist. The California Avenue bike ped tunnel is not suitable for hundreds of kids going through it at one time. In fact, now the bicyclists, I use it several times a week, and the bicyclists going there are a danger to life and limb. They speed through there without regard to the pedestrians, and I can't imagine trying to go through there when there are hundreds of Pali kids trying to cross. So I really think this is very short-sighted, and I really urge you not to do this. Thank you.
Thank you. Another person on this side.
I'm so sorry I wasn't able to put all of my thoughts together, but I really do want to emphasize how this is not permanent. This is temporary, and if it does become permanent, obviously I would be happy. By the way, I'm Joanna. I'm an alumni of Pali and some of the other schools, but I really just wanted to emphasize that this would be. I understand the concerns, and I understand that, for example, people can say that, you know, ambulances and fire trucks, it really does, you know, it might be difficult, but I also think that life is so important, and I think that right now, it's such a dangerous time right now, and I think that life is just, student lives are in danger right now. It's only been a few months. I think we need support and help right now. And I've been going to Project Safety Net meetings. There are things that are coming, things are happening, and I do believe we just need more time. So please, you know, do this. Thank you.
Moving on this side.
Hi, my name is Rachel Croft, and I live in Southgate, which is this neighborhood right here on Mariposa Street with the train tracks in our backyard. So this concept would really affect our movement around town. But that said, when a suicide happens on Churchill, the train may stop behind our house. Whenever we see a train stop back there, it causes heart attack, thinking, you know, what could have happened? We put flowers on the tracks as a symbol of solidarity with kids. And I worry about the kids at Pali who have nonstop exposure to the tracks while at school. Kids are impulsive, and the train provides 104 opportunities every single weekday to make an impulsive and tragic decision. That's how many times it passes. So I strongly feel that we need to do something about this. I support temporarily closing the crossing. Let's just see what happens with it. It will inconvenience us, no question, but we are willing to accept that. We'll find new ways around, but it won't cause any irreversible damage. So this is just a temporary thing to see how it goes. It's low risk, low cost, and what do we have to lose option. So I am an advocate for trying this. I do think figuring out what the outcomes are will be critical to being able to get long-term community buy-in. So what are we looking at? What are we measuring? And how do we determine what success is?
Hello. My name is Omkar Parinkalam. I'm a senior at Palo Alto High School. Ever since, I believe, 2018, there has been a proposal by the city of Palo Alto for grade separation at all 4 of the Palo Alto grade crossings. However, up until now, from what I can tell, there's still been no progress on that crossing. And I understand there are a lot of decisions and it's a very expensive project and there must be a lot of time and effort that goes into it. But closing only the Churchill crossing, while it is a good idea, it still leaves 3 other intersections that remain unsafe. And while the Churchill crossing is a step in the right direction, I hope that the city, in however 60 days or however long the crossing is closed, I really hope that they make strides towards grade separation at all 4 of the crossings, because I believe that is what would be most beneficial to reducing suicide in the long term. Thank you.
Other hands?
Hi, my name is Mayor B. Lucas. You may have seen my comments, but just a quick point up front. Please use the language of died by suicide and not committed suicide. Committed refers to a crime and died is like dying from cancer. So I thank you all in advance for that. I lost my son 8 years ago to suicide, and I can tell you that my pain has not subsided any more than June or next. So it does not get better. That person was in pain. The family's in pain. Children's are in pain. I met somebody the other day on our police force who had been through 17 suicides in his career. So this is a problem that affects, everyone. Most days I find myself at a loss, honestly, that we're even having conversations about a traffic inconvenience. I literally just don't even know what to say, because if a few minutes in your life could save a life, I like to think that everybody would make that choice. None of us are in that much of a rush. None of us can't wait 5 minutes, ride a bike, walk, wait 15 minutes. I went over to Stanford for months at a time for cancer treatments, and yes, it's an inconvenience, but leave a little earlier. I'm tired of Palo Alto being known as the town where students and adults die. I'm from Philly. My family knows. Everybody knows, oh, you live in that town. That is an awful feeling, and it's an awful legacy that we're leaving our children. I want to be known as the town that did everything that they could possibly do to help stop suicides. I want to be the town that shows our students that we're listening. I want us to take to heart the elimination of lethal means. Go read the article about the Golden Gate Bridge and the amazing, amazing success they've had in an 80% reduction of suicide. And I forget an insane number a day of people that stop, that they go talk to and get treatment. It's amazing. And I also want to stop these train whistles that are such a trigger. I can tell you, I stood there for 6 hours the day after Summer died to greet our students, and that train almost knocks you down. It blows down the flowers. It hits you in the face. Every student who went by on a bike felt the pain at those tracks. And every student in that classroom that hears those whistles, a little bit of them dies every second with that pain too. And so I think closing Churchill's a start. Please, for everyone who's opposed, could I ask you to think less about the inconvenience and think about how you might adjust your life or what else you might do in the city to help us figure this out. There are plenty of ways the students get to Pali, and I hope that you'll help us save another life. Thank you.
Okay, on this side.
Hi, I'm Terry Jack. I live in Southgate. I just want to close Churchill. I have 5 kids. They all went to Pali, and they would come home, and the whistle, it tormented them. And they know what it means. They know how it feels. I'm sorry, I'm really upset. We have studied this for years, and there have been studies and recommendations to close Churchill. No issues. This is a temporary closure to test it. I just beg you, test it right. Do what Rachel said. Get the right, what are the right statistics? What are we measuring? What is success? Test it correctly, but for God's sakes, eliminate. It's the only crossing at a school in Palo Alto. Let's stop the debate and start the fix, please, I beg you.
Others on this side?
I'm Dave Epstein. I live in Emerson Street in the Cloverleaf to Embarcadero. I'm moved by all of this as well, and I care most about the safety of our kids. And I care about not having more deaths. And what I'm fearing is this quick reaction is going to lead to more harm. And that is that we have a solution. I commend Educata and the City Council for putting somebody here to watch the tracks. And I understand that historically, when somebody's there to watch the tracks, there have been no deaths. So we have that pause. We have the time right now to spend and figure out what we're going to be doing. Watching what's happening on Embarcadero every day in front of my house, kids are in real danger. Cars are coming by and crossing that with an additional 1,000 cars that are going to come because of this closing. Kids are going to get hurt. And that's not what I think anybody wants. So I implore you to take this time, exactly what people are saying. Let's pause. Let's have this person stay here as long as it's necessary to keep kids safe and figure out what we can do to mitigate the change that's going to cause kids to spend a lot more time commuting, a lot more time rushing to work, rushing to school, a lot more time in cars, which is automatically going to increase the danger. So please don't do this as a knee-jerk reaction. Please do this with somebody there as long as it takes to figure out how we make all kids safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Some in the back here.
My name is Chris Colahan, and I have two kids in Palo Alto schools, one at Pally, one at Green, and I strongly support closing this intersection temporarily. And I just want to talk a little bit about the practicalities of closing this intersection. A couple of things. One is people mentioned that, oh my gosh, how are kids going to get to Pally if they can't cross at Churchill? Having a kid that goes to Pally from that side of the tracks, I know already kids avoid that intersection. They avoid it. They'd rather go on Embarcadero. They'd rather go under California. They'd rather go under Homer. And they'd rather do those things because the intersection there at Churchill sucks. It really sucks. And we screwed it up even more last year when we redid that intersection. I can tell you, I rode with my kid once. I had to take him to camp at Stanford. And so we decided to go down Churchill up to Stanford. And we sat at that intersection for 15 minutes waiting for a walk signal. We did that for a whole summer. So we know what it's like when the intersection is closed because we've screwed up the timing on it before. And sure, the traffic sucks and people learn how to reroute other places. It just happens. And so that's basically what I'd say is really we've tried this experiment already and we came out of it okay. So doing it a second time won't really, I think make a huge difference on the traffic patterns.
Thank you. Let me go on the other side. On this side, in the back, anybody?
My name is Lisa Nissim. I live in Southgate, and I just can't imagine what the friends and family of suicide students are going through right now. And it's clear that the whole city mourns. And we all want to do something to assure that mental health issues are never again result in the loss of a loved one. Suicide is a complex issue. Each case is complicated and different, best navigated by the person suffering, their family, the school district, and mental health professionals, but not the city. Mental health issues are not a transportation or hardscape issue. Rather than ask the city to change traffic patterns to force those with suicidal ideations elsewhere, we should be asking the district, what are you doing to address the suffering of our students? Personally, I had one of my children had suicidal ideations, and I had to fight the school district tooth and nail to get him proper services. And I'm happy to tell you that he is thriving right now. It had nothing to do with closing a train track or making traffic changes in the city. It was getting the right kind of services, and we didn't have the support from the school district. While closing Churchill may sound like a simple solution, it's not. And calling this proposal is temporary is a misnomer. I challenged the city to identify one temporary closing of a rail crossing in the state that was temporary. Nothing is a quick fix. The 2020 XCAP report exploring closure as an option includes 7 pages of mitigations that would be needed to implement a safe closure of the road. Closing the road is not a safe solution. It would create other problems throughout the city, and they need to be identified and solved by a rigorous public study of this option, which was done 5 years ago. The previous city council took all of that into consideration, and they didn't have to rush to a decision. So I don't see just closing Churchill as a safe solution. It needs to be studied much longer.
Anyone else here in the back? I am trying to get around the room.
I'm kind of scared to speak, but okay. My name is Caitlin. I graduated from Gunn in 2006. And I just want to echo what others have mentioned, that the lasting impact of like living through losing peers and loved ones is not mitigated by time. The most kind of rational of my friends have opted to relocate to other states. I think the general consensus among my peers 20 years out is that this is not a safe place to grow up. And when I first heard about this listening session, my immediate response was to burst into tears, because it feels really unfair that as many resources as we devote to this problem, it doesn't really seem to get any better. The school district has put millions and millions of dollars into solving this problem. And I'm sort of surprised at where I have landed on this, because my initial response was, I think, quite an emotional one, which is that this sounds like a $2 million Band-Aid for a problem that goes much, much deeper than closing the railroad tracks. But I just want to say, when I really think rationally about what is best for the kids that will soon become adults, I think the best thing for all of these kids is to just limit access to this fatal mechanism that really wouldn't have that much impact on any of us. I mean, it kind of would. Like, I work right off Embarcadero, like, whatever. Traffic, in the scheme of things, is not more important than, than kids, just as this gentlewoman said, like, taking time to think through these very dark moments. Yeah, I guess that's what I want to say. Yeah.
Okay. Others up in front?
Excuse me. My name is Erin Dahl, and I've been a Palo Alto resident for 12 years. When we moved here, the history of suicide in this community felt distant. And I'm a crier. Excuse me. But as my children grew, it became a constant shadow. We've seen the school district and the city add mental health support and temporary safeguards, but it hasn't been enough. My oldest is now a freshman at Pally, which means he has joined a massive, heartbreaking club of students who worry about their friends making it across the tracks every day. They play on fields and study in the classrooms mere feet from where lives have been lost. And the weight is too heavy for them. Please close the Churchill crossing. I know the debate over this grade separation is contentious, but we should close the crossing while we build a tunnel, a bike and pedestrian tunnel. Our children need to stay safe. Let's prioritize their lives today so that one day we can reopen a crossing that represents our commitment to their well-being. Safety first, traffic later.
Hi, I have 2 Pali alum and 1 Pali student, and I just want to start by thanking our elected officials and thanking the staffs of our school district and our city. Whether we get this all right or not, every single employee and every single elected I know cares so much about it, and I appreciate all the work that you do and how hard it can be. I support closing the crossing, not because it's the fix. It is not the fix, and I think we all know that. But it is a lethal means. It is a hotspot that is right there, and that has become a way that we have lost students. While yes, there are people standing at those crossings, still those horns have to blow. And it is traumatizing for our students. My alum knew people who we lost to suicide, and hearing that, 104 times a day, is re-traumatizing over and over and over again while you're trying to learn. So even having the humans there, while that is a helpful fix for right now. Again, it's not the fix. I know that the school district and the city have both invested a lot in providing mental health services for those in crisis. And I know the school district continues to talk about how can we even prevent the crisis originally from even happening. And that's something we don't have answers to. But in the meantime, let's remove the 100-mile-an-hour gun that we have right in the backyard of the school. Thank you so much.
And the other side.
Thank you. Pali is the only school in California at a grade railroad crossing. There are 10,478 at-grade crossings in California, and Pali is the only one with it next to it. It's crazy. Terry and I had 5 kids who went to school who knew several people who died. A good friend of mine's son died at Churchill. The train horns are crazy. And let's do the math on the traffic. There are 6, if we close Churchill, there are 6 crossings in Palo Alto, 2/3 of a mile from each other on average. That's a minute and a half in a car going 25 miles an hour. Palo Alto has 68,000 people. With 6 crossings, that's 11,000 people per crossing. It is exactly the same number of people per crossing for Menlo Park, Redwood City, and Mountain View. And they don't have any problems getting across the tracks to their schools or their hair appointments or anything. So I think that we don't have to worry about crossing Churchill because our cities next to us have exactly the same density of people per crossing. And with 6 crossings at 2/3 of a mile on average, there's plenty of ways to get across. And with kids, as mentioned, they can use several ways to get across. Not California, like you mentioned, or someone here mentioned, but Horner. There's many ways to do so. So please, let's close it. Thank you, Julie. You did an amazing job. It's really amazing. And our kids are very thankful to you because they've been traumatized by the horns like everybody else. Thank you.
Over here.
Step back here. Hi, my name is Hank, and I live over on Melville. And I I have more of just a couple questions. Maybe somebody, the Caltrain person, could answer. Can the trains roll much slower when they leave the Palo Alto station as they cross Churchill? You know, maybe 5 miles an hour until they pass that crossing. And the no horns thing, I think Atherton has a quiet zone maybe, so that could be a possibility. Do other peninsula communities have these suicide clusters? I haven't paid much attention. I don't have kids, so maybe that's why, but it is sad and important. I don't favor closing Churchill, but I would favor some other alternatives at this point if they're feasible. So thanks.
Hi, my name is Stephen Lee. I'm on the boards of Project Safety Net, the PTA Council, and Youth Community Service, but I'm speaking in my personal capacity this evening. As we consider this issue, I want to focus on one point that shouldn't be subject to the typical Palo Alto debate, and that's that means restrictions work. Decades of public health research show that when access to a highly lethal location is reduced, suicide deaths decline and lives are saved. Now, some will say that we should focus only on root causes and focus on things like counseling, prevention, and youth mental health support. And we should focus on those things. But these same experts are clear that prevention works best when multiple layers of protection work together. So addressing root causes and reducing access to high-risk locations are complementary strategies. Even with crossing guards, and they're an important layer, they are just one layer, and restricting access adds another. Closing even one of the 4 crossings can help. Research shows that people do not simply shift to another location, and creating that time and distance can help someone get through moments of crisis safely. Churchill is also uniquely sensitive because it sits next to a high school, and this issue has impacted our community for decades, meaning that the impact has been compounded. So it's not just about the students that we've lost, it's about the impact that it's had on the broader community. Maybe it's for that reason that recently the Palo Alto PTA Council overwhelmingly supported closing the temporary closure of Churchill, and we joined with Julia and the 3,700 students who supported as well. Now, we know that this is going to be difficult to figure out, and it will require a lot of sacrifice, but not all impacts carry the same weight. What is up for debate tonight is, will we prioritize solving these harms and doing the hard work of making this happen? Or will we simply decide that it's too hard or too inconvenient to try? Closing Churchill doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be important enough for us to try, and it is.
Hi, everyone. Thank you all for coming out tonight. I think it's been very helpful for me to hear the different perspectives. My name is Carrie Templeton. I currently serve on the Planning and Transportation Commission. I formerly served on the Train Crossing Community Advisory Panel. Of course, I'm speaking here on my personal behalf tonight. I really appreciate the comments from people who said that we're all mourning every time something like this happens. And I would like to challenge everyone to think about what it means to mourn. For myself, I have challenged myself to avoid this intersection and to drive around on the alternate routes and to see what it's like, to see if it's that bad, to time it. And I encourage people here who are worried to try it out. It probably is going to be a different timing, but it might be 30 seconds because we do have to wait for the train. We also have to wait when there's a collision. Factor that in as well. I would also like to thank the school district for changing to a support for this closure. I know that was a big concern for the city in the past, and I hope, I feel like I've seen that the city has taken that into consideration, and that's why we're having this conversation now. So thank you also to the city for adding the crossing monitors, to working with Caltrain for prioritizing safety and quiet zones, and technology. I see, I know we have a council member here working on that. I would also like to advocate for the year or more period of temporary closure because we do know we have seasonal crossing patterns that if we tested this in the summer, it'd be different than if we tested it in late August. I would like to encourage the fast tracking of the seal crossing and underpass for pedestrians and bikes that the city has already approved. I think that will make the temporary closure a lot more palatable. But whatever we do, I hope that we can silence the train horns as soon as possible, because those are very re-triggering for the students who are currently there. And if we were to ideally have a period of time to have this temporary closure, I would say 4 years to cycle people out so they won't be triggered by those if you have to reinstate them. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hi there. My name is Eileen. I have lived in Palo Alto for 30 years now and have had 2 children go through Pali. The pain of the suicides is with them as well. I have now lived through 3 suicide clusters here, and my heart is broken with each student death. My children were in school during the first 2 clusters. I live near the tracks, so I am often aware of what happens at the Churchill crossing. Palo Alto has a 4 times higher rate of suicide than other communities, so this is an issue for all of us. However, I fear the emotional reaction to close the Churchill crossing is not the solution to this crisis and is a Band-Aid on the wrong problem. I'm going back to the CDC. If any of you remember all those early suicides, it triggered a CDC investigation. And in that report, I went back and read it. Of the 10 students who died by suicide in those first 2 clusters, only 1 was at the Churchill crossing. The rest were at East Meadow. 1 was by hanging and 1 was jumping from an overpass, and I am sorry to bring up all those horrors. But if we were to follow that quick fix logic, we would do a lot of different things than close the Churchill crossing. So let's look at the data, because you would close East Meadow first, and that has no proximity to a school. We know that the last suicide at Churchill, Summer, was premeditated because of the messages she left. If I felt like people were running out of school and impulsively running across the tracks, it would be different. And look, temporarily closing it, learning, okay. But I agree with some of the people who say, and we know how slow we are about doing anything, if we close it temporarily, are we really going to close it temporarily? That would be my concern. So let's focus on the real issues, do what we can to fix the mental health, provide every student with the wellness that they need, access to mental health, expand what there is in the schools. Sorry for running.
Hello, everybody. My name is Yoriko Kishimoto, and I think our decision makers you have a tough problem because you have to navigate 2 intractable, deep-rooted, complex problems of Palo Alto. And one is that of, teen dying by suicide. I've had 2 daughters go through Pali, and my younger one was in a year of one of the clusters, and it's devastating. It should make us question our priorities, but it doesn't exist in a vacuum. The traffic and issues are traffic and housing. Those are the 2 big problems that I'm sure the city council hears about every single week. They are issues that affect everyone's lives. So I think. So my take is two things. I guess one is to wait to build the bicycle infrastructure first, like the CO undercrossing, because we have no alternatives for the students and all of us to go. I mean, I would love for, since, for everyone who would be driving across Churchill to become bicyclists and take that bicycle crossing. And the other is to remember that, yes, that we do have to avoid the knee-jerk reaction, that remember that we have to look for that systematic solution. I work in the field of water and fire and open space right now. And for example, flooding. I mean, there's a major flood in Palo Alto. Yes, let's build a concrete culvert to get the water away. And so that's what we used to do. And over the years, we discovered that causes other problems. It accelerates the pace of water, it causes erosion, it destroys the biodiversity around the streams. So just take the time. I mean, we've studied all these issues many, many years. Take the time to think about it systematically. Take the time to build that bicycle infrastructure and let the two guards work, and then think about it.
Hi there. I think we're about 45 minutes into the open listening session, and just wanted to take a gauge. How many people are still interested in speaking? There's still quite a few folks. We were wanting to implement a break for those that want to take a break, bathroom breaks. There's bathrooms on either side of these doors. There's cookies right outside, water here. Does a break sound like a good thing to do for about 10 minutes? Yes? 5 minutes. Okay, let's go with the 5-minute break, and yeah, we'll see you back in just a few minutes. Thank you. Okay, can people start making their way back to their seats, please? We're going to start soon. We are online and we're going to start streaming again, so please make your way back to your seats. I'm going to give a thumbs up to the folks over here so that we can get back online in just a second.
We're on.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
So we're starting back with the listening session, and I'm starting with the woman who we took a pause.
Hi, good evening. My name is Maribel Ramirez. I have 2 kids in the district, one in 5th grade, one in Pali. I'm speaking as a mom, as a member of the community, and I have many other roles in the community. I appreciate the city and the board to have these listening sessions so you guys can listen from different point of views and different experiences. It's heartbreaking to hear that young lives are lost through suicide. As a mom, I cannot imagine the pain to losing a child. I'm a CARA grief counselor, and my job at CARA started when my daughter was in 2nd grade at Ohlone, and I first heard a suicide, a gun. So I went from the debriefing to the city, and I've heard about what was happening in Palo Alto. And my daughter was in 2nd grade, and I thought, I don't want this to happen to her. So now she's in Pali in junior year, grieving the loss of the students at Pali and Gun. The initiative of closing is a temporary solution. There is no one agency or one person who can solve this. It's a community effort. I please urge you to do your research, to look for data, but also to open your mind and your heart and try this closure as an experiment. I believe that the city and the community can plan it in a way that can be safe for all. I think there are enough smart people in this town to make decisions based on data and based on safety. And I support the initiative. I'm also part of the Community for Special Needs, and that is another layer of worry. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. My name is Melinda McGee. I live in the Fairmeadow neighborhood. The city council members know me because I've been advocating for years for quiet zones. I've heard from numerous people here about the traumatizing effect of the horns blowing, 104 trains a day, times 4 horn blasts per train crossing, times 2 going north and south. I am in support of a temporary closing of the Churchill crossing only if it's combined with an expedited safety measure of establishing the quad gates and other measures that need to happen to make it a permanent quiet zone. My son rode his bike from Midtown to Pali for 4 years. He was in one of the cluster years, and the blasting of the horns for the kids while they're in class, while their sleep is disrupted nearby. But this is not just a problem for the Pali students, it's the gun students. And there have been numerous incidents at both Churchill, Meadow, and Charleston. So I'm asking not to have a knee-jerk reaction to close it, but to do some significant scenario planning to do, if we do this, then what? People talking about the grade level crossings, changing that. That's a 10 to 20 year, probably $1 billion project. What we can do now is establish the quiet zones at all of the Palo Alto crossings and expedite that so that the kids can cross and sit in class without listening to the horns. Thank you. And huge thanks to the City Council who approved the quiet zones in November. So we just need to move forward with that. So thank you.
So I'll come back, I promise. Others on this side?
Hey there, I'm Greg Braille. Some of you might remember me from the XCAP. I have two students in my family who are members of the Pali Theater community, where Ash and Summer were beloved members. Omcar is also really cool. Thank you to the counselors and the school board members who were here. People have asked for data. There have been 24 deaths on the tracks in Palo Alto since the year 2000. Most of them died by suicide. There have been 8 suicides in Palo Alto by people under the age of 22 since 2018. 6 of them were at the tracks. In 2022, Melbourne, Australia did a giant grade separation project. The university there did a study. They found a 61% reduction in suicides within 1 kilometer of a closed rail crossing against a control group of rail crossings, and they did not find evidence of displacement. In other words, they'll just go somewhere else is not true. South Orange, New Jersey right now is having a crisis. 5 of their students attempted suicide. South Orange, New Jersey, I used to live near there, just as much student pressure, just as many rich, wealthy, entitled, pushy parents, just as many bullies, probably just as many transgender people, just as many trains going just as fast and just as frequent. But South Orange, New Jersey has no grade crossings, whereas Palo Alto has 4. And the CDC report, by the way, absolutely called out means restriction. Someone asked for a systemic solution. A systemic solution in this town, a big part of it, is getting rid of all of the grade crossings. I'm kind of lost hope that we'll ever be able to afford to close all the grade crossings. Pat, Burt, and Carrie know what I'm talking about. We can do something. One thing we can do is we can close Churchill. We can build a beautiful bicycle and pedestrian experience. We actually have the money for it. It was allocated in Measure A. It was $170 million. I think it's even more now. I live and work in town. I cross the Caltrain corridor whenever I go to my office. Closing Churchill will make my life less convenient. And I know that it won't prevent all suicide in Palo Alto, but I think it's going to prevent some, and that's enough for me. So thank you.
So my name is Donna Tversky. I am a Pali alum. I am a Pali parent. And I'm also a psychiatrist with a background in public health. I want to remind folks who don't know that despite calls to introduce a net for the Golden Gate Bridge from the year it was founded in 1937, it took until a year and a half ago, 2024, for San Francisco to install one. And after that, suicides there plummeted. Barriers work. We have an awful truth to face here, which is that the Palo Alto train tracks have become our own version of the Golden Gate Bridge. I remember the sweet sound of the train horn when I was a Pali student. Now that same sound fills me with dread. We can't control every factor that leads a young person to take their own life, but we have yet to employ the single most effective one, which is lethal means restriction. Folks have said, that we need more mental health services, we need more adults in people's lives and children's lives. That is, that might be true, although at the same time, Palo Alto has probably the best mental health services globally. And as we've heard tonight, a lot of the students that lost their lives at the train tracks were receiving mental health care and had really loving families. Addressing community health requires a multi-pronged approach. We need both individual treatments like psychotherapy, but we also need to approach this as a community health problem. When we have 40% of students, and this is not just in Palo Alto, but actually meeting criteria for general anxiety disorder, and 10% of students reporting suicidal ideation in the last 12 months, and that's a national statistic, that is not just Palo Alto. It's not an individual problem anymore. It's a systemic problem, and it needs systemic solutions. So just like we remove carcinogens from the environment, we have to remove exposed train tracks from our environment in order to protect the mental health of students. Now, when I evaluate a suicidal patient in my clinical practice, which I do from time to time, one of the first questions, of course, is, do you have access to lethal means? And the first thing we do is work to remove them. Let's do that for our children here. Now, I won't go over all of the data that folks have covered here. Suicide is an impulsive act, barriers work, and it's really cruel to keep the train tracks exposed right next to Pali. So I'm asking us for generations to come, let's make the sound of a train horn sweet again and not sickening.
Hello, my name is Linda Schilling. I have lived on Mariposa in Southgate for more than 50 years. My son grew up riding his bike to Palo Alto schools, including Pali. I am extremely well acquainted with the intersection of Churchill, Alma, and the train tracks. I drove through it to work every day at El Camino Hospital for 40 years, and I still use it almost every day. My house is probably the furthest distance in Southgate from the intersection of Churchill and El Camino, so you might say I will be more impacted than most residents if Churchill were to be closed. It will certainly make it less convenient for me to get to the places that I like to go to, such as the library, Town and Country, and downtown. And getting to Embarcadero, Oregon Expressway, or University Avenue will take longer and won't be as direct for me. But I say, close Churchill. The terrible tragedies that have happened on the tracks near Churchill merit prompt action. Of course, planning needs to be done to accommodate people walking and biking, but this is not insurmountable. Even though closing Churchill will be an inconvenience to me personally, the inconvenience will be fairly small, and I think that is fine for me and others to have to drive a little further on some of our trips in order to make this situation better overall for everyone. Thank you for your thoughtful planning and discussion on this. Thank you to City Council and all the agencies represented here tonight.
Hi, I'm Deborah Goldine. I have lived in Palo Alto since 1963. I'm Pali class of 81. My kids were Pali class of 04 and 07. What I haven't heard discussed tonight is a viaduct, and it has been a possibility, I think, for at least, I know 15 years, maybe 20. It would solve the problem, all the grade crossings problem, and you know, the closing of Churchill is not going to really impact Palo Alto residents. Them I don't have too much sympathy for because they can ride their bikes. What it's going to impact are the commuters, and there are lots of them. They're going to be very badly impacted, but I kind of don't care because, you know, you can't build a viaduct. You know, if people are upset about the Churchill crossing, say, well, you didn't want a viaduct. What are you going to do? There's also one, you know, I mean, you've got to choose. People are upset, you know, in Palo Alto, they love to talk about how their property value is so important to them. Well, this suicide crisis is affecting the reputation of our schools. It's affecting our property values, so consider that. And I also wanted to add that the subject of the Churchill crossing as a problem was first brought before the council in 1913. 2018. So yeah, this is not your, we got to have measured thought on this. Oh, honey, please. This really takes the record for the Palo Alto process. I mean, really. Yeah, so close the crossing. Who's next?
This side? Others on this side?
Hi, my name is Rika Yamamoto. I'm just speaking from Palo Alto High School parent perspective, which my son has autism, and he lost his friend who is junior. And when that incident happened, he had the same dance class student who was lost and died by suicide. And I asked him, what's going on? Because I got a note from his teacher, you gotta be ready to speak your son. And my son told me, Mom, everybody was crying like a baby. And I tried to engage more, and he said, just immediately shut down. I don't want to talk anymore. And the next, I heard on other news, there was a magnitude of hurting feeling, and I just couldn't focus at all when Summer's incident happened. And I moved here 2015 with my, at that time, sophomore high school son from Princeton and West Windsor, New Jersey, where the same kind of train track near in the town. And I was joining the next year school district social emotional learning committee because of that, because I wanted to learn why this was happening in the community I just moved in. And I worried about, because my second son was in JLS, so I just don't want to have those kind of incidents happen again and again, but here we are now. And I think the latter tragic threat is the really important we have to focus right now, because train track is literally in the school campus. That was the thing that I realized, oh my God, this is because Dad is there. So I beg as a parent that we want to consider that right now. Thank you.
Hello, I'm John Melnichuk. I've lived in Palo Alto since 2002. And as a young person, I had my own experience with a suicide attempt. I remember the feelings very well. Isolation, despair, the feeling that how to get out of pain was very difficult. In this time when we're shocked, sad, grieving, struggling to comprehend what's happened in our community yet again, we're all looking for an emotional solution. And while we do that, it's important for us, I think, to try and distinguish around a rational solution to our shared problem here. So the fellow Dave who talked about, we have a pause with the monitors at the crossing guards right now. That was a very smart decision, I feel, and very helpful to all of us. It gave us a feeling of getting a little bit back in control. I'd like to look in a holistic way for our community how to solve this problem. As we say, it's multi-layered. In a certain way, it's incomprehensible. None of us really understand it, even the psychiatrists who are giving best care. We don't always know what's happening. Even as a young person, when I was in trouble, I didn't really know what to say or how to say it or how to get help. So the warmth of community coming together is a solution in itself. This meeting is a solution for our problem and for our kids, because we're modeling a community effort for them and we're listening to them. I'd like to encourage us all and give us all some credit for trying to work out a very difficult emotional problem with very difficult geography. The silent partner here that I'm not happy with is Caltrain, which makes too much noise with its horns. I'd like to see what their contribution is to the mental health of the communities that they run through and disrupt all of the time. Part of the distress is lack of sleep. Part of the distress is pressure to perform, either be a burger flipper or be a doctor. Don't miss your test. Get the GPA at 4.25. Be with your friends, but be independent. It's all very difficult and confusing. But I wanted to thank the community and our elected officials and people from the school board here. We're all doing our best, and I want to acknowledge that and thank everybody here.
Thank you. Other folks?
Thanks. My name is Sanjeev Narayan. I'm a resident here in Southgate. I don't think so. Inconvenience is any cost that it stands up against to the safety issues and the grief that the parents who have suffered are facing. I think inconvenience, I'm willing to completely take it on. But given that it's a safety issue and in the interest of all the data presented here, I want to throw out one more thing. I just want the decision makers to also take into account, once we close the crossing, some fraction of the current cyclists and pedestrians that cross over it will use Embarcadero and some will use other alternative. Embarcadero has no stop signs. Churchill today has 5. I go use it every day. So the last fatal cyclist accident in Palo Alto was on Embarcadero. So just trade off and put enough safety measures on Embarcadero to make sure that we don't shift the problem. And since we are only focusing on safety, let's stay on that issue itself. Embarcadero, the traffic goes pretty fast. I just want the decision makers to take that into account whenever they do the trade-offs and analysis.
Other folks on this side?
Thank you. Hi all, my name is Indra Monga and I'm a parent of 2 Pali graduates. One of them is sitting here with me. To the families here tonight who have suffered through, I would say, an unthinkable loss, for me, there are no words I can say for your loss. We are all here because we all want the same thing. We want safety for our kids. I mean, that is a common parent thing. We all want safety for our kids. My concern in closing Churchill is not about convenience. It's about unintentionally creating a new high probability physical danger on Embarcadero, like the previous gentleman pointed out. I live close to Embarcadero. I see how gridlock it is. I walk to Trader Joe's from under the Embarcadero Bridge. I know how many times I've almost been hit by cyclists. And I see how all the Pali kids are walking and biking through that in the morning and in the evening. So my concern is you're unintentionally creating another high probability physical danger in another location, and we are not talking about that solution. So this is not about convenience or traffic. It's about a physical reality for thousands of teenagers on bikes and foot, and also in terms of high school behind the wheel that are funneled into the Embarcadero underpass. I live close enough that I see many Pali parents drop off kids right in front of my house for them to walk because the road is blocked. There is no way for them to get to Pali in time in order to drop them off. It's already a known hazard. You're forcing all the students that are going to another known hazard, and that to me seems unacceptable if we care about total student safety. So we don't want to trade one tragedy for another. I appreciate that the city is doing the hard work. The council, you are thinking of mental health support and track monitoring and the monitors that you have put in. So again, I don't want to do a solution that creates a new danger zone. I beseech the council and all of the parents here, please protect all of our children in all circumstances and make grade separation that you have adopted as a strategy, as your top priority, and let's get that implemented. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Boy, this is a very sad evening, and I am so sorry for the loss of our children. It really is heartbreaking. My name is Barbara Hazlett. I'm a homeowner on Emerson Street in Professorville, but I am against a Churchill closure at the train tracks. The closure will result, as we all know, in dumping thousands more cars a day onto Embarcadero. Embarcadero and University will be the only 2 east-west conduits remaining in North Palo Alto. Both of these streets are already highly stressed. I am the canary in the coal mine tonight. to warn of the harm to hundreds of residents along Embarcadero, in Professorville, and in Old Palo Alto. There is a terrible trifecta of harm. Number one, there will be delays in emergency response times where minutes can make the difference between life and death. Imagine first responders trying to get to a problem at Pali or Town and Country on a weekday morning. There is already gridlock. Number two, frustrated drivers caught in gridlock will divert and speed through the neighborhood streets, imperiling bikers, walkers, and residents. Number three, most importantly, how about the risk to our children created by thousands of more cars a day speeding past the 3 schools that border Embarcadero, namely Walter Hayes, Castanea, and Palo Alto, and also competing with our children for space on the cross streets. Ignoring these issues is a big mistake, warns the canary in the coal mine. Closing Churchill is a dangerous idea.
Others on this side.
Hi, my name is Alina Haggerty. I'm a Pali grad, and also my daughter is currently going to be a Pali grad in 2027. Thank you, Chairs Lithcott Hames and Chair Darab, for putting this on. I would like to say I am advocate for closing Churchill Crossing, and here's why. It is too dangerous not to. And what I'm hearing is that people fear change, and fear change in a big way. Yes, we will have to accommodate, and yes, there will be more traffic on Embarcadero, which I live 2 blocks from. But I understand that we will need to accommodate to make changes that save lives. And also, you know, this is not just a single-fold issue. We need to go at both ends and organize for suicide prevention in our schools, in our community, and we also need to not demonize people who have mental illness struggles, and we need to finally be more inclusive. Thank you very much.
Others on this side.
Hi, I'm Bree. My daughter is a junior at Palo Alto High School, and I remember reading about the suicide clusters in the 2010s before my family moved here. I never would have imagined that my own daughter would be living through one. She has lost 2 of her classmates in under a year in the exact same location by the same lethal means mere meters from her campus. I fully support the Churchill crossing. For those that oppose, I keep hearing the same pushback. Closing the Churchill crossing won't work. I hear that the problem is too complex, it's too rushed. I'm hearing this is a mental health issue and not a track issue. It is a track issue. Gun violence is the leading cause of death for teenagers in the United States. In Palo Alto, it's death by train. I imagine that most of you in this room support common sense gun reform, such as extended background checks, cooling off periods, red flag laws, banning assault rifles, and so on. So why on earth do we not support reducing access to lethal means here in our city for our kids? We would never lay an unlocked, loaded weapon out in the open behind our school, but that is exactly what we're doing with these tracks behind Pali. I am sick of it. What an insult to every family who has experienced the greatest tragedy of their lives. What an insult to our kids right now and the future generations. We cannot allow our city to be as complicit as Congress is towards gun violence. The best time to have this fixed was before we ever lost a single life, and the next best time is right now.
My name is Chris. I live in Southgate, 4 houses south of Churchill on Castellea. So my house is the social central of high school kids coming out. I'm encouraged by Rachel and Linda also saying our lives would be remarkably inconvenienced by having this intersection closed, but we are all for it. Like Rachel mentioned, when Summer died, ran outside, and I work a lot at the schools and volunteer a lot. I got so many texts from just desperate parents wondering, who is it? What happened? The entire town is on pins and needles. And also because of the amount of time I spend on campus and my daughter's overly wide social circle, the kids really are talking a lot about hearing the train, the horn, how it makes them think, how it makes them feel. And this has kept on going. It hasn't calmed down. I'm still hearing about it a lot. I'm really encouraged by the amount of work that's happened in the past weeks with having security guards. There's trespass mats out there that a lot of people aren't even aware of. A lot of changes happen quickly, and I really think that this temporary closure of Churchill could keep this momentum going towards this final solution that we need to have. It really has been great to see some change finally happening. So I thank everybody, all of the decision makers involved with that. I mean, the tracks are so close to Pali, and they allow for such impulsive acts from kids. It takes just 1 second of a child feeling lost, and it is so immediate, and unfortunately it's so effective, and there's just no coming back. There's no coming back. So I am in full support. Please close Churchill. Thank you.
Others on this side?
Hello, I'm Michael Price. I live in Southgate. I feel for everybody here, and I know that we're all searching for a solution. Perhaps I can offer an alternative, one that's entirely within the school district's power to implement, and that is to close the campus off from Churchill Avenue entirely. Prevent anybody from the campus coming on to Churchill, having them all have to exit on Embarcadero. That would separate the school from the tracks, and it would take somebody having to walk the entire length of the path to get to Churchill. But if you prevent people from going routinely across Churchill to get into the back of Pali, maybe that is a good portion of the solution, with a lot quicker implementation, perhaps, and one that doesn't affect the entire community as much as closing the intersection.
Hi, Steve Carlson. I'm a resident of Southgate as well, and have been aware of this issue for a while. My heart really goes out to the parents, and I, having never lost a family member to suicide, I can't imagine what you're going through, but appreciate all the support that you have in this room. And also appreciate the support of the City Council and the school district in terms of implementing an immediate solution by putting the monitors on the tracks. I think that one thing that impresses me about this issue is that if we really want to look at the temporary closure as risk mitigation, it really needs to be at all the intersections, not just the one that we're the most familiar with, because in fact, a higher percentage, if you look over time, have occurred at the other locations. So I think the potential problem with this solution is one that's already been mentioned. The numbers of when this issue was studied in the XCAP, the pre-pandemic numbers, which some of you may remember, at that time there were over 10,000 cars a day crossing the intersection. As I recall, it was closer to 11. And so we really have to think in terms of a temporary closure about the impact of all of that traffic being rerouted. It's not just a matter of convenience, but it creates a safety issue. And we should be concerned for the safety of all Palo Alto residents and all Palo Alto high school students. So as I understand it, this proposal would be for a maximum of 12 months. That's the view, which kind of corresponds to temporary mitigation, the means restriction, the efficacy of the means restriction. And the clock is already ticking, so we're already a little ways into that. I would encourage the partnership in terms of the temporary solution to continue the monitors at all the intersections. I think that makes a lot of sense. We know that it works, so please do continue that. And then let's take the time to come up with a longer-term solution, which has already been endorsed for the Churchill intersection. It's been studied for quite a while, very carefully, and let's look at what it takes if we need to move more quickly on that, and extend the monitors if we need to. There is a group of residents here that are not fully represented, which is the entire Southgate neighborhood. We did a lot of data gathering previously and went door to door with a survey and with a very high response rate in the neighborhood of Southgate. And the vast majority of the Southgate neighborhood, with the exception of some people on both Mariposa and Churchill, have not historically been in favor of closing the intersection. Most of them are not even aware of this meeting tonight. So I'd like to make sure that their voices are heard as well. They're among the most impacted, besides the people on Embarcadero. Let's not decrease the safety of the rest of the community and create an additional hazard by a temporary solution that isn't any better than the one that's already in place now. Thank you.
Others on this side?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Linda Hennigan. I have a Pali graduate and in 2 years, going into Pali student. And I want to say that I care about all of our children in this town, not only the kids who go to Pali. I care about all of our kids, no matter which school they go to. And I want them all to have safe ways to get to school. I want to acknowledge that in this room, I hear pain. I hear frustration. I hear some disbelief. I hear a lot of deep and complex emotions. And I also hear us not operating from a shared set of facts. And that troubles me. We are Palo Alto. We are well educated. We are resourceful. I think we can come together around a shared set of facts about what research tells us and what we have seen in the past, and not over-index on what may happen in the future, because I believe in us. I believe in our ability to solve problems together. If we can't do it, who in the heck can? I believe that we can figure out the engineering to reroute cars and bikes. I believe we can build the tunnel at Seal that the council has approved, so the kids will not have to be not using that Churchill crossing forever, but only until we get the tunnel built. We have a solution ready to go for that. I believe we can find the money for that. Actually, I think the money's already ready to go. I have to believe that no one here wants to lose another child. I really do. I really hope that is the case. And I hear people have different thoughts on how to not lose another child. And we have research that tells us that cutting off access to what is uniquely lethal in our town does help. I hope we can come together and believe in ourselves, because I believe in us, and I hope you do too. So I hope we can close Churchill, get the tunnel built, work on our mitigations. I believe in us. Thank you.
Others in the room?
Hi, everybody. Oops, I am so sorry. Are you okay? Okay, my apologies. My name is Srinija Srinivasan. I'm a Southgate resident for quarter century now. And I am not a parent. I'm a loving neighbor and a loving member of Palo Alto. I just want to make a kind of a meta point, I guess, that, to be or not to be is not an intellectual question. It is an existential question. So it's a spiritual question. This is not a mental health issue. The mind is actually very strong here in Palo Alto. We are this beloved and blessedly hyper-educated and hyper-intellectual culture that I am proud to be a part of. I love my brain. We are not weak in the mind. Our students, their minds are very vital, very active. But the crisis in our culture is not of mental health, it's of spiritual health. Whether you believe in a God or not and what God you believe in, this is beyond the material and the logical and the rational and the analytical and the thinking mind. So we won't think our way to a solution, to a challenge that is not a rational, intellectual challenge. We can only live into the question, not the solution. We can live into the question, how do we love each other more? And interestingly, living into that question together, that actually begins to address the foundational spiritual, cultural question. So I've listened openly and curiously tonight because I don't have a personal stake in closure or not closure. I'm going to be fine either way. I do think this community is really wealthy, and I'm part of that, and we should be rushing to replace all the grade crossings. It is bonkers, as someone had said in similar words. But what I haven't heard anything tonight that indicates that keeping the Churchill intersection as it is will be a more loving response. And I have heard lots of comments that tell me closure would demonstrate one step of loving response. And I just offer that that's the lens by which I'd consider this issue. How could we love each other more? That's the lens that I would just offer as a practice.
Other members of the community that would like to speak? Seeing no hands?
I'm a retired parent, okay? So, but I'm a visitor, so I've been kind of in and out of Palo Alto. I guess Southgate is the neighborhood. And I've attended many meetings like this, many. And I'm from Minneapolis. And we have our own issues, obviously. But I've never been in a school board meeting at all that dealt with the level of suicide that was happening with children that were a part of the district where I was a parent in, ever. And I probably attended 100 and something meetings similar to this. So as a visitor, as somebody from an outside lens, you have a lot of work to do. And hopefully that work will happen immediately, because if it doesn't happen immediately, then you're setting up a process where your children are memorializing their pain. And that's dangerous, because if people are in pain, they look to greater methods to kind of magnify that. And there's a lot of potential damage in terms of people's mental health, because I do believe kind of in a mental health approach. But when you present that opportunity for children to create that kind of greater platform in front of the adults that are watching, and if there's not immediate response, whatever's necessary to deal with that, then you could set up something that's kind of set up to be a normal kind of condition of your students. And obviously, I think, we would all agree taking our own lives, it should not be normalized. So just to let you know again, I've never, ever heard a meeting that dealt with this level of children being obviously in some level of pain and moving to the immediate response to take their own lives. So I'm supportive of that. So whatever happens, being I'm a visitor, however support that I can be, I'm just letting you know. So thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. So we're moving into the closing remarks and next steps section of the program. And I'd like to invite School Board Chair Darup to the lectern here. Thank you.
in some ways, the decisions that we make on the school board are easy because we have a binary choice. Is the decision that we're making affecting adult inputs or student outcomes? And for us, that's easy. It's always about student outcomes. This is a much more difficult situation, and it's outside our scope because here the city has to consider, and those involved have to consider adult outcomes too. And that becomes a very, very complicated issue. I want to thank everyone who spoke today. I want to also recognize the folks who came to this room to speak in favor of not closing Churchill, because I think most of us here were in favor of closing Churchill. And it takes a lot of guts to come and have a conversation when you are speaking the other position. What I heard from the folks who came opposed to that was a consideration and an observation of student outcomes. And that was really well taken and really appreciated from me as a board member. I think that thoughtfulness and that deliberation is a part of what this is, which is a deliberative process. And down that path lies a thoughtful solution. So I just want to thank everyone for coming in and spending a little of their evening to share and to talk, and really want to thank my partners here on the City Council and the city. And I know that through that process, if we're going to reach a solution, we will. Thank you.
Thank you, Shaunak. What a pleasure it is to work with you. Well done. I want to thank and commend you for how you expressed yourself tonight and listened with courtesy and respect, even to those with whom you disagree. Our right and left brains were on display tonight, as is the hallmark of Palo Alto. We had the data-driven, rational, intellectual, and we had the emotional, compassionate, spiritual, and loving. All valid, all compelling, all heard. A public commenter mentioned that there were no suicides when security monitors were present at the tracks. And these monitors are once again in place. As another speaker said, there is no one agency or person who can solve this. No measure is fail-safe, and they're right. But those security monitors in place now, as we do our due diligence on the larger question of closure, can give us some measure of comfort. I don't know about you, but when I drive by, and my local crossing is East Meadow, when I drive by, I put my window down and I shout a thank you to those folks. I hope it's good for them. I know it's good for me to express that gratitude. They're probably like, who is that person shouting at us all the time in the white Jeep Wrangler? It's me. I want to be sure you know that Caltrain also installed high security fencing on the west side of the tracks last year. Many people don't know this, which is why I'm pointing it out. There are so many components to these safety efforts. I think every time we can provide more information, it's good. Those cone-shaped anti-intrusion panels you may have seen, they sort of look like mats on either side of the crossings are going in. Those are a best-in-class solution out of Europe, brought to us by Caltrain. The issue of accessibility for ambulances and fire, people trying to help other people in crisis, amid gridlock traffic and the current configuration of Embarcadero Road, for example, are very real, different health and safety concerns that we must study. We are studying these potential issues and impacts, and will ultimately do our best to do what is right for our community. Linda, I believe in us too. Thank you so much, everybody. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm supposed to say some other things. And now for the more technical things. In terms of next steps, I encourage you to visit the city's website, where you can get a whole lot of information related to the safety measures that have been discussed tonight. That's at paloalto.gov. That's our main website, is paloalto.gov/temp Churchill closure, all one phrase. paloalto.gov/temp Churchill closure. As you may know, the JED Foundation, a nationally recognized youth suicide prevention organization and emotional wellness promotion organization, the JED Foundation has a contract with the city to work with us and our entire community to prevent youth suicide. They have been making site visits. They were here in the fall. They're here again next week. They have a series of meetings, some focus groups just with youth, one session on who are we and why are we here, one session to help you process your grief. There's about 5 different sessions. Please just go to paloalto.gov, our main website, paloalto.gov/bewell, and you'll see all of the JED visits next week listed there. Finally, as we've said, the City Council consideration of this matter is tentatively scheduled for April 13th, 2026. I know we all will do our best to hit that deadline. You never know what will come up, but we all know how urgent this is, and we are acting as quickly and as carefully and thoughtfully as possible. And with that, let's just give a round of applause to all of us for coming out on a Thursday night to have this tough conversation. And you can always email your city council, city.council@paloalto.gov, an email address that will come to all 7 of us. Thank you very much.